question is brought to you by Life Change Tea. Food today is full of chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides. Cleanse your body of those nasty chemicals with Life Change Tea and prolong your existence. You'll feel better and your immune system will be stronger. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Steve uses it, so does the mailroom manager, and I've started drinking it myself, and it's great. Getthetea.com. Steve, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
What should Republicans do with Obamacare? Repeal it or let it fail on its own?
I'm going to go with let it fail on its own at this point.
Right now, 53% say let it fail on its own.
Very close. I thought it would be very close. Joining us now on the line is somebody who's been following this morass or debate, whatever you want to call it, on Capitol Hill very closely. Dr. Peter Warner. He's a neurologist from Wellesley, and he's in the CNS Multi-Specialty Clinic, and he's the author of the book, The Art of American Healthcare, which is available on Amazon.com, The Art of American Healthcare. It's a great book. It's got some great reviews. And Dr. Warner, were you saddened or gladdened last night when you heard that the Senate version of the Obamacare replace and repeal was being pulled?
I was gladdened. It's clear that Obamacare needs to be 100% repealed. You and I have been talking about this for a long time now. We know that that's what needs to be done. I know President Trump wants to do that. Congressmen and senators are not delivering. Paul Ryan and the House of Representatives came up with the American Health Care Act that partially repealed some aspects of Obamacare, and then we had the Senate version that did the same thing, repealed some portions of Obamacare, but both versions essentially left much of Obamacare intact. So I'm glad that it's all failing, but I'm not convinced that they're going to actually cleanly repeal Obamacare, even though we know that's what needs to be done.
But, and again, I mean, there's a lot of debate, and that's why the poll question is so tight. Trump said on the campaign trail, the best thing, politically speaking, would just be to let it fail. And he was saying that a year ago, and now it's much closer to failure. I mean, it's pretty clear. What are we down to? 4 Obamacare exchanges left in the whole country. 40% of the counties have only one insurance provider for Obamacare. I mean, it's a total disaster. But the thing is, Dr. Warner, I'm not convinced that the Republicans can place the blame on the Democrats, given the fake news media. The Schumer is already trying to blame the Republicans today for the fact that his plan, Nancy Pelosi, Obama's plan, is failing today.
Well, I might differ with you on this one. I think it is the Republicans' fault at this point in time. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the executive branch. They've had a long time to put something together. They have failed. Mm-hmm. So at this point, the blame lies squarely with the Republicans. They have failed. So as time goes on, I fear that if we just let Obamacare implode as it is already doing, then patients and doctors will suffer. And then, what government likes to do when there's a crisis, they like to take more control over things and increase government involvement. So I would rather see them put together, Mo Brooks, I think a few months back, offered a bill in the House that was just complete, simple repeal. It was like a 1 or 2 page bill. Why don't we just take that up and vote on that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, again, I don't know what the best solution to the problem is. I mean, Trump was saying last week that he wanted the simple repeal. He said, if you can't pass a bill, let's just repeal it. And now, we're in uncharted waters here, Dr. Warner. Nobody's ever been in this situation before. The New York Times is kind of chuckling about it today, saying, see, this is what happens when you try to take away an entitlement. And it's like they're happy that the Republicans are stuck in this quicksand, this mire of but the thing is, Dr. Warner, it's so unfair, isn't it, to blame the Republicans? I mean, not a single Republican in 2009 voted for this fiasco. Not a one. And now they're blaming the Republicans for what's happened.
Well, I agree that we can't go back in time to 2010 and blame any Republican at that point in time. But at this point in time, I'm sorry, I'm going to differ with you. We can blame the Republicans for not getting this done. I'll also say that it's often been said that for many years in a row there were bills put before Obama that repealed Obamacare. If you actually look at those bills, the attempts at what was called at repeal, they actually were not clean repeal of Obamacare. Those were also modifications very similar to Paul Ryan's American Health Care Act. So even those were not complete repeal. Those were just tweaking Obamacare. So Mo Brooks' plan to just completely repeal Obamacare is the only pure repeal that we have. And I don't know why isn't that being put up for a vote?
Well, for one thing, they don't have the votes. I mean, it's become clear now that the Republican women, Murkowski, Collins, and Arch Moore's daughter Capito from West Virginia, they said they've already said, and probably Portman is not going to vote for it. So they don't have the votes to repeal in the Senate either. So what would you like to see done, Dr. Warner?
I would like to see President Trump step in with a few. I would like to see complete repeal without replacement and no time to phase in. So there's been some talk that let's do a complete repeal and then give it 2 years to phase in. No, just repeal it with, and have it in effect repealed immediately. Barring that outcome in the coming weeks, I would say President Trump should have some authority through executive offer, executive. I'm blanking on the phrase.
Order or executive order, like
executive order,
DACA,
yeah.
The Dreamers.
So he should have some authority through executive orders to just begin to dismantle Obamacare. I don't know why he doesn't start doing that.
Well, because they'll take him into court. I mean, this. He's not Obama. Obama could tinker with the bill and say, this provision is going to be political poison for Democrats, so we're not going to enforce the law that was passed by my party. And no Republicans had the stones to take him to court. But that's not going to happen with Donald Trump. I mean, look what's happened with the travel ban. Which he has obvious constitutional authority to do, and he's being hamstrung by the courts. It would happen. It would happen again. I don't know what the solution is here. But I mean, what needs to be? What are the most odious parts of Obamacare that need to be excised? I mean, I heard Mike Lee, the senator from Utah, talking today. I think he called it Title I. These are all the mandates that are set up by Obamacare. Like, for instance, the periodontal dental care. Even if you're like a 60-year-old unmarried male, you have to have infant dental care. I mean that kind of stuff. Why can't we get rid of that immediately?
Well, I think that's actually what Paul Ryan in the House and the various Senate versions have tried to do. Line up 100 different things that are pretty horrible and try to take them out. It's not working. Just the whole thing needs to be completely repealed. You might have one opinion, others have other opinions. It just needs to be entirely repealed. What we're witnessing here is the facts being laid bare of who we have as leaders, supposed leaders, in the House and the Senate. You have people who absolutely know nothing about health care and are being influenced on one side either by lobbyists who want to build in pork to various plans so that your money can be shifted towards them. On the other hand, you have political ideologies that are akin to socialism or even communism. And so with all these competing forces, nothing is being done, and there's no consideration for the patients and the doctors and the actual healthcare system. It's a disgrace. There's no leadership right now.
Who do you trust when you go home at night, Dr. Peter Warner, and you turn on the TV? Who do you trust speaking on the cable newscasts about this? Which politicians?
Rand Paul. I would say if we listen to him, we'll have the best guidance from the doctors and the patient's perspective.
And he was the one who said he wouldn't vote for the Senate bill. He was the one who kind of drew a line in the sand, and he brought all these people with him. He's the one. But on the other hand, you have Dr. Barrasso, the senator from Wyoming. I mean, he was with the leadership on this, Dr. Warner.
Yeah, I think, well, not all doctors understand the healthcare system and understand healthcare delivery. And matter of fact, look at the American Medical Association, the AMA, that hardly represents a fraction of doctors, yet they portray themselves as representing the medical profession and patients, and that's arguable because most physicians would agree that they no longer represent patients' and physicians' best interests, and there's tremendous conflicts of interest. So appearances may be deceiving, but from my informed perspective, I would say Rand Paul is the best voice to be listening to at this point, the one who's most knowledgeable on how to achieve this and understanding what really needs to be done.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Warner, a neurologist, and he's from the CNS Multi-Specialty Clinic in Wellesley, and he's the author of The Art of American Healthcare. If you want a primer on this whole subject, The Art of American Healthcare is a great book to have. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be in touch as this thing continues to unfold or unravel or whatever you want to call it all this summer. Thank you, Dr. Peter Warner. When we come back, we'll take your calls on healthcare, 844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
Time. Let Obamacare fail. It'll be a lot easier. And I think we're probably in that position where we'll just let Obamacare fail. We're not going to own it. I'm not going to own it. I can tell you the Republicans are not going to own it. We'll let Obamacare fail, and then the Democrats are going to come to us and they're going to say, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? Or how do we come up with a new plan?
See, I respectfully disagree. They're not going to say, how do we fix it? They're going to point the finger. Schumer's already pointing the finger today on the Senate floor, that it's somehow the Republicans' fault, even though no Republicans voted for it. It really is a total morass. By the way, I mixed up I meant to say pediatric, and I said periodontal. I'm sorry. I have made that mistake before. Thanks for the texter for calling me out on it. Pediatric dental care. That's one of the things that's covered. It's one of the nutty things that's covered. There are all kinds of crazy stuff that's covered under these mandates that were set up by insurance companies and special interest groups.
Is there a black toe mandate?
You know what? There's everything else, and we had Romney Care in Massachusetts before Obamacare, so we have more mandates than anything else, and that's why. See, I mean, Massachusetts is a petri dish for this disaster. I mean, we are now up. The state budget in Massachusetts that was just passed last week, a total disaster. Tax revenues are already cratering. We haven't even passed the graduated income tax yet, which is going to be on the ballot next year. Tax revenue is already plummeting because people are getting the hell out of the state. 42% of the state budget is now, like one of the VIPs that just moved to Florida, who's sitting here in the studio. I mean, everybody's moving out. I mean, it's not getting the same kind of play that Puerto Rico and Illinois are, but it's the same process is going on, and it's only going to accelerate. 42% of our budget in the state is now Medicaid. Mass health. It's out of control. It's a black hole. And somebody texts me and says 73% of the American people want single payer. That's because 73% of the American people don't understand single payer.
And 73% of the people want free stuff?
Single payer is the VA writ large. It's already writ large enough. Do you want to have those same kind of Phoenix waiting lists like they had? You know, they're lying about waiting lists so they can get big bonuses, and then they just get transferred. They get $100,000 to move, and you can't get rid of them. I mean, this is a disaster. It's a disaster. We had a guy text in yesterday when we were talking about this. He's in COBRA, which is the transitional health insurance that you have between a job to the next job. He's paying $2,400 a month for COBRA. $2,400 a month. He hasn't got a job. And I'll bet the deductible is as high as an elephant's eye. And probably the co-pays are out of control, too. So he's paying $2,400 for an insurance plan he can't use. And those people don't get write-ups in the paper. Bernie Sanders, do you think Bernie Sanders cares about that guy? Hell no. Elizabeth Warren? No. Chuck Schumer? They don't care about that. It's a mess. And I don't know the answer. I don't know not forget the Republicans. I don't know how America is going to get out of this. This is just a giant mess that we're in here. I don't know what the resolution is going to be. I don't think anybody does.
Well, the only problem with letting it fail is that isn't that what Obama wanted all along? Wasn't it just one big scheme to collapse the private insurance company industry? I mean, that's
Yes.
what, even Susan Collins said that when she was running for re-election most recently.
Yeah.
It was designed to implode the system.
Right. You can't. Everybody had these quote unquote bad apple insurance policies, but they're gone. You can't put the egg back together. Everything's been wrecked. Pat, you're next with Howie Carr on the General Communications listener line. Go ahead, Pat.
Howie, you got to have Rand Paul on as a guest and let him explain this. I'm telling you, he is the only solution to this mess, and it's a free market. The reason health insurance and health care is deteriorating is because you've taken consumer choice out of it in the free market. Right now, you have only a handful of providers around as far as insurance companies go, and they're government-created monopolies, all right? The Liberty Caucus has been the only people that have been right on this so far, and Rand Paul has been leading them. And one of the things in his plan with people with pre-existing conditions that say they can't get health insurance, if they're allowed to join a group insurance policy with others like AARP, ones like that, they'll have to accept them as part of the package, okay? And then when you bring in consumer choice to be able to buy health insurance that you want across state lines, then you're going to see things change. And there's money to be made here. And as long as there's money to be made, there's going to be companies that step up and want a piece of it. It's a free market, and that's why we haven't had it. All we've done right now is get government more and more involved and distance the patient-doctor relationship, and that's why things are the way they are right
Pat,
now.
you're in Vermont.
Right out of it.
Pat, you're in Vermont, which tried to set up single payer, and they backed away, just like California's backing away because it's unworkable. Even in moonbat states, it's unworkable. What do you do? You're a small businessman. What do you do? What are you doing for insurance?
Oh, I pay through the nose for it right now. I pay, and it's a wicked high deductible and hardly any coverage. But I'm going to tell you though,
like the Cobra guy.
Yeah, and one of the things with Rand Paul's plan is he wants to bring back the HSAs so you can pay your premiums through a health savings account, which is pre-tax money, which is fantastic for self-employed people.
Yeah, I have the health savings account myself. I pay down all my prescriptions and all that stuff. It's great. It's fantastic.
So you don't have to pay taxes on your black toe cream?
You can put it that way, but yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can get all the prescriptions I need. Yeah, with untaxed money.
Well, Listerine. When you're soaking your black toe in Listerine, is that HSA applicable?
I now have a prescription from Dr. Alan Green, my podiatrist. He's doing a great job for me, and it's going to be a lifelong. I'm in recovery. It's a lifelong procedure. You can never beat black toe fungus, but you're always in recovery. But thanks for asking, Steve.
Have you reached the point where you're helping others overcome black toe?
I'm trying. People, if you have black toe, I'll give you my phone number. You can call me at any hour of the day or night. It's a lifelong struggle. It's never over until you assume room temperature. Chump Line coming up next. I'm Howie Carr.